You're listening to the First Fight podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. Welcome back. I'm here with another great episode. Today I chat with tough champ, author, and Emmy Award-winning fighter Eddie Gordon. He shares how watching a UFC event in a bar with his friends sparked his interest and lured him away from the financial world where he was making a living. We talk about the risk he took to pursue his career and how it paid off. He also shares how fighting saved his life and led him on a path of inspiring others in ways he had never dreamed. Enjoy! So on today's episode, I have Eddie Truck Gordon. Thanks for coming on, Eddie.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. So what brought you to MMA? You just happened to know Chris Weidman?
It was kind of crazy. It was a combination of both. I got tired. I got burnt out. I got tired of working in the finance world. You know, people are never happy. If you make them money, they're mad because their friends made more money. If you lost their money, you lost their money. So I went on vacation and I like to gamble and I like to watch sports. So we went to Atlantic City to gamble for a couple of days. Then we shot over to Philly to watch UFC 101. I went with a bunch of friends and, we were sitting there watching ringside. I remember like it was yesterday. It was Forrest Griffin versus Anderson Silva. And I was watching with these different eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is sick. I love this. Like I could do this. And I told all my friends, they all looked at me like I was crazy. They said, it's the Red Bull and vodka talking. You have no idea what you're talking about. And at that point, I was super heavy. I was like 370 something pounds. I was fat, overweight, out of shape. And I really like believed in myself. And my mentor and the CEO of the company, he believed in me. And he was like, yo, if you're serious, I'll give you a shot at that. I'll sponsor you. And I was like, yeah, okay. And the doubt still crept in because, you know, if a bunch of your friends say something, you kind of start to like believe it. And I went to the gym to work out because I was a meathead. I was just lifting weights, getting fat, and think I was getting muscular. And I ran to Chris Weidman, who is a high school friend of mine. And we were just like talking. And I was like, what are you doing? At that point, he was at Ring of Combat. And he's like, listen, man, you should give this mixed martial arts thing a shot. And I went down to, Sarah Longo's gym, and it took off. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of an amazing team, and it was like family. And he took me under his wing. Next thing you know, I'm on the UFC Ultimate Fighter show, and the rest is history.
How long was it before you had your first MMA fight?
My first MMA fight was 3 months after I was training, and I had an amateur fight. I did 3 amateur fights, but the first one was unbelievable. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in the Raritan Center. It was like an empty warehouse. I remember it was at heavyweight because I was a big boy. I still didn't lose that much weight yet. And I remember my coach, Ray Longo, saying, relax, go in there, stay calm. And I'm like, dude, I played college Division I football. I'm fine. I competed. This is nothing. And I remember the adrenaline rush was it was just like second to none. It was like I've been chasing that high like ever since. And nothing could, like, if you haven't walked into a cage and you haven't fought, you really can't understand it. It's almost like having kids. Like everybody tells you how amazing it is until you have your own kids. You just really can't understand what it's like to be a mother, what it's like to be a father. And being in the ring was adrenaline rush. I had an adrenaline dump because by the second period, I was exhausted. I couldn't understand. I wrestled at high level. I freaking played Division I football, and I was exhausted. It was nothing like I ever experienced before. And there's nobody to blame. There's nobody to point a finger to. It's only you versus another man or woman in a cage. And, I was fortunate enough to get my victory. It was a referee stoppage. And I remember because I had all my friends come out. I felt like it was like that show was for me. I had all my friends come out. I had a bunch of professional football players that I played with come out. And, I just fell in love with the sport from that like second on. I knew I wanted to compete. I knew I loved it, the competition value of it. But like that first fight was just amazing. I really, truly, truly believe, and from my eyes, like my first fight was just as exciting, if not more exciting than winning the UFC, Ultimate Fighter Championship. Like I like the feelings of butterflies and anxiety and anxiousness all wrapped in one. Just couldn't compare.
Mhm. Yeah, compared to like being on the roller coaster and you're at the top and there's
That
no
feeling,
turning back. When you walk out, you're like, what am I doing?
uh,
Why am I here?
and I remember like yesterday, my mom telling me, "What are you doing? You went to college, you got a degree, you have a great job, you have a 401k. Why are you going to this little warehouse? Why are you fighting for peanuts?" And it's hard to explain to somebody who doesn't understand. Like it's hard to tell somebody like I have competitiveness inside of me that sitting in an office is just not doing it for me. And I was miserable. I was unhappy. Didn't matter how much money I made. I was just lost. I felt like I was losing myself. And fighting literally saved my life because I was really, really out of shape. I was, probably a heart attack, another burger away from a heart attack.
Mhm.
Who knows? And like it taught me discipline. And it was something that I was missing. When I graduated college and I didn't make it to the NFL and I thought my athletic career was over, I lacked discipline. I let myself go physically, mentally, emotionally. And it was like something that was a void. And I know it sounds cliche, but fighting truly, truly saved my life.
Definitely. I totally get it. I wasn't spiraling or anything, but without it, I don't know, it made me a better person. I think I was lost before I discovered martial arts. I started kind of late, like at 27, but when did you start fighting? How old
I
were you?
started at 27. That is so
Okay.
wild.
Yeah.
I
And I mean, a lot
got
can happen in a short period of time, which you learned, I'm sure, but
that. But if I listen to the naysayers, man, everybody told me I was too old to start. I was too fat to start. I was too slow. Like I had every single reason not to do it because they say, guys are training super young for a long time. And I had zero mixed martial arts training besides wrestling. But I feel like wrestling is the best foundation.
oh
And
yeah.
I was I was willing to work hard. Like I beat a lot of guys that were just better than me skill wise. I just found a way to win, and I just kept on doing it, just persisting and persisting. And I had a goal in my mind that I wanted to be at the highest level because I always felt that I fell short of being at the highest elite level. And when I went to college, I played Division One AA, which is super competitive football, but it wasn't 1A. I
Yeah.
was vertically challenged. I got cut from the NFL. I didn't make a team. They wanted me to go to the CFL. So like I was never at the highest level of my sport. And I said to myself, like, if I don't get to the UFC by 30, like that was my goal. That was my goal. And I literally like, fought on the show July 4th weekend, you know, 2 weeks from before my birthday, my 30th birthday. So within 2.5 years, I was able to,
Wow.
accomplish what I wanted to because I set my mind to it. And I think that it was like a gift and a curse because I was so caught up in getting to the UFC. That's all I really set my goal on. And I should have set my goal higher. And I could have probably did better because I felt like once I got there, I accomplished what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's subconscious, but I truly, truly believe that.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, how many fights did you have before you got on Tough?
I was three amateur fights, and I was 4-0 on Tough, 5-1. It was either 4-0 or 5-1 to get on the show, and it's crazy because I was supposed to be on Tough 17. I tried out for Tough 17. At that point I never fought middleweight, and they had 205 and 185, and I ended up dropping 205, and they wanted me to do 185, but I weighed in at 230 at the tryouts, and they sent me back home saying, "All right, you're on the show." I quit my job. I was ready to go, and at the last minute they decided to not do 205. They wanted to just go one weight class, and they
Mm,
didn't think I could make 185, so they pretty much dropped me, and I thought
yeah.
that was it. I was frustrated. I was mad, and literally I thought that was it. And my teammate Ali Quinta told me about Tough 20. I'm sorry, Tough 19, and I was like, I'm not going there. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I had my shot, but I gave them a call. I listened to them. So kudos to Al. He gave me the will to like give them a shout. They remembered me. They brought me in to do my physical, and the rest is was history.
That's great. And you ended up winning. I mean, at
I
the
know
time, did you
it
have
was wild.
kids when you were on the
At,
show?
at that point, I
Yeah.
had two kids. I had two kids at that point.
So that had to
So
be really hard, I'm sure. I mean, that's a big risk to take and
it was
paid
crazy.
off.
Like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was like to go on the show with two kids and know I had a mortgage to pay, I had bills to pay, I had things to take care of. It was nerve wracking. It was like, what if this doesn't work out? You know? And I was just like, you know what? I have to try it out because you're young, but for so long. Like, father time is undefeated. I don't care who you are. At some point, you know, we get slower. We get older. These young kids are coming into this game now so seasoned, so well. Like they're training for mixed martial arts now. It's not like you're coming in
Mhm.
with one background. They're like training, putting everything together. So, it's tough. It's definitely tough, but I'd rather risk it all than not and live with regret.
What would you say was the hardest thing about fighting, while you had a family and kids to feed?
Uncertainty. Like it was
Yeah.
super uncertain. Like, I don't have to tell you, you're a fighter yourself, you live it. It's like the emotional roller coaster, the uncertainty of what's next, the uncertainty of of an opportunity because it's not like a regular job where if you get hurt you can get up and go make ends meet. Like if you don't fight, you don't get paid.
Mhm.
And it's like you have to be charismatic, you have to get sponsors, and there's a lot of response, tug and pull. But in that whole dynamic, you have to be true to yourself. And I feel like a lot of people lose
Yeah.
themselves, They try to appeal to either fans or try to appeal to sponsors and they're not who they say they are. And it's like you lose yourself. And once you do that, like I feel like it's downhill from there. But the lack of certainty like, with kids, like you have mouths to feed,
Mhm.
Thank God at that point, my girlfriend, who's not my wife, like she had a solid job and, she was supportive. And I really had an amazing mentor that wasn't even in fighting. He was just a mentor in business. And he just taught me everything he knew. And he supported me and helped me, along the way, the bumps. And that meant a lot because fighting is a huge roller coaster. Everybody loves you when you're winning. And nobody gives two craps about you besides the true people that care about you when you do lose. And if you're fighting the best people in the world, there's going to be a point where you're going to have ups and downs like anything else. And
Mhm.
anything else in the world that's difficult is what's worth it.
Yeah, there's nothing like the highs and lows of fighting. Nothing compares. But you need that good core around you. And I find that the people that are successful are because they have that core. And
So true.
Corey was really lucky in the sense that he had a lot of good mentors and coaches coming up that encouraged him and like got him to go on tough. Like a lot of people don't always have that, and it makes a big difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. And like, I don't think people realize how difficult that experience is. They see you on TV, so they think it's like TV, but they don't realize you're away from your family, you're away from uncertainty. You are, random coaches. You're with, people that you're going to fight in a house for 7 weeks. No communication with the outside world. So it's super tough, man. I think it's one of the toughest things I did, but it also, built up a ton of character. And I feel like I could do anything at this point.
Well, I mean, you ended up going on to writing a memoir. Tell me a little bit about that experience and that process.
It was different. Like I never in a thousand years thought I'd be a best-selling author. I never thought I'd write a book. But I was fortunate enough to get um, followed around, and my local paper, Newsday, did a documentary on my experience on Tough. So they followed me before the show, they followed me during the show, and then they followed me afterwards, and they followed me, with the actual finale. And I won a New York Emmy award for that story. So I was like, it was only a 14-minute video shot over 5 months. I'm like, they really didn't go through everything about my life. So I had, some principles that I lived by. And I said, let me put everything down into a book and just kind of share my story with the world and see what they think. And it won an Emmy award for the documentary, and I won a best-selling author for the book. And I never in a thousand years, I thought fighting was how I was going to like change the world. I thought fighting was how I was going to connect with the most people because I was entertaining people. But after writing the book and hearing some of people's experience with reading it and hearing how it changed people's lives, And for me, being on Twitter, I'm never really on Twitter because people are crazy and wild, which is a good and bad thing. But somebody reached out to me and said that, they were bullied. They had a speech problem. They were an immigrant. And to see that I went through some of the similar things that they did, and they wanted to end their life and they chose not to because they read my book and saw that, they could actually make something of their life. I was like, holy smokes, this is what true impact is on people's lives. So for me, that was huge. If I never wrote that book, I would have never experienced that. And I feel like that's what made it easier for me to kind of, look at fighting as a sport, look at fighting as what it should be, like an art, martial arts, and not like the end all be all. So for me, it made fighting more fun. It made fighting more doable because, it's stressful, man. Cutting weight, the wrong way, fighting somebody and just knowing that if you don't win, you're not going to get your full check and this and that. There's so many different variables, being hurt, not being able to fight at 100%, and nobody really listen to excuses and nobody want to hear it. So it's like there's so much you got to worry about the outside family life. It made it just so much more enjoyable because I realized I'm an entertainer at that point. I'm here to entertain, and it's not the most important thing going on in the world.
So you seem like a very multifaceted man. What would you say is like your passion in life?
I true
Right.
honestly, my passion is to help others at this point. Like I truly believe that the one thing I didn't have was somebody tangible that I could say, oh, this is the blueprint for success. My parents were Jamaican immigrants. They worked their butts off to provide for us. But like as far as like professional athlete, like willing to experience and tell people like, what the hardships they went through and just be um just completely accountable and to be completely transparent and authentic. Like that's what I am. And I started the Eddie Truck Gordon Foundation to do just that, to like help underprivileged kids, and I'm passionate about it. Like I truly, truly want to, run a program where it costs kids absolutely nothing to do. They could come to the program, get physical fitness, get mental fitness, get taught financial literacy, and be set up for success in life. And it doesn't matter, what their parents did in the past. Doesn't matter what they did in the past. So I want to help, kids do that. That's my ultimate goal.
So cool. I think that's the best thing about having a platform is being able to influence others and give the kids someone to look up to in your community. So that's an
I
amazing thing
agree.
to be passionate about.
Oh, thank you
Now,
so much.
what would you say? I mean, you've been around a little while. The industry has changed a lot. What do you think of MMA today?
Oh man, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I mean, today I find I feel like it's a gift and a curse. I'm super happy that fighters are making more money now. I'm happy that, other organizations are coming about to give fighters an opportunity to get their true worth, their true value. But it's kind of, it's awkward. Like that. I think that a lot of fighters are getting ahead of some of the better fighters because they talk well. And I know it's entertainment. I get that. But I feel like there's a lot of politics now being played in the sport, which kind of takes away from the combat aspect of it. I feel like the best two fighters should always fight. I don't think it should be about who's likable, who's this, who's that, who's entertainable. Like I get it, it's an entertainment thing, but combat sports was like the truest form of back in the day when Roman gladiators going in there and competing. We're not fighting to the death, but unfortunately, people can lose their lives. And I just think that fighters should get a little bit more respect from fans. The diehard fans get it, but the fly-by-night fans that are coming in now because of the promotion and the antics and the entertainment aspect of it, I don't think they respect fighters the way it should be. So the new age of mixed martial arts it's frustrating, but I'm happy to see fighters being able to actually make a living from it. I just wish all of the other stuff wasn't involved, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. We get it over here. I mean, it almost takes away from the legitimacy when it's more about entertainment. It's a struggle to straddle between the two, but a lot of these kids that learn about the UFC like by fighters that have a big following, like Sean O'Malley, for example.
Yes.
They come on the scene and they're like, he's like the best fighter, isn't he? And he hasn't even done anything yet. They have no idea rankings and
Exactly, exactly. That and it's tough. It's like, and credit to him. Like,
Yeah.
I never look at a person like he's done a lot of marketing for himself. And it's like it's frustrating, like somebody that's in the game for a long time, grinding it and higher ranked, but he's making a ton more money. His contract is more lucrative. It's just like doesn't make sense. It's like you're doing everything. You're risking your life. You're fighting the toughest guys possible, and you're not getting paid what your worth is. It's frustrating because especially if you have a family and you got kids to take care of. And I hate the saying when people say, "Oh, you're making six figures to fight for 15 minutes or whatever it is," and it's just like your fighting is not a 15-minute thing. Like you're training for 6 to 12 weeks. You're watching your weight 24/7. You have family, you got kids, you have birthday parties, anniversaries that you can't, special occasions that you miss out on. There's so much that I don't have to tell you. Like you live it, you understand it. But the average person just has no idea. They see what you do for 15 minutes and they think that's all it takes, and it's just not. It's just not the case.
Yeah, I always say that the fans see about 1% of it all, and that's the most exciting part. The rest is a grind,
Exactly.
and it's
Yes.
not nothing's for sure, You don't know you're getting paid until you are on that scale or in the cage even because
Yeah.
say your opponent doesn't show up or misses weight, you still might not get paid. So,
Yes. It's scary. People don't get that. Like they just don't understand that.
hmm totally. So, I guess to finish it out, what is fighting to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. Oh man. To me, like fighting is life. Like I truly, truly believe that. Believe that. Fighting is life, and we're all fighting for something. You know, I fought, for my family. Like I remember going on tough and saying, "This is my opportunity. I have to do everything in my power to get to the UFC because that's the pinnacle of mixed martial arts at the time." And I was willing to like sacrifice every and anything. Like I had a broken toe that nobody really knew about before I went on there, like an open fracture. My bone popped through my foot, and I was just like, there was nothing that was gonna stop me from getting on the show and winning it all. And I put my mind to it. And I don't all the listeners listening right now, we're all going through something. There's something like we're all fighting for something, whether it's for fighting for a job, fighting for your life, battling an illness, fighting for love, like whatever. We're fighting for something. So for me, fighting is life. And I feel like the fighters that understand that and get that are usually the ones that get the most success because if you're fighting for limelight and money, that's just gonna wear off. Like, and you see it all the time. Like people that make the big check, and big is different for everybody. You'll see them lose their passion, and it's scary. And that's why like fighters like Frankie Edgar, fighters like Corey Anderson, like you got to look at those guys and say they're fighting for the right reasons. Like they go out there to give their all, and I love that. Like those are the fighters I always root for. The Chris Weidmans of the world, like. Obviously, I'm biased because those people are close to me, but like they get it. Like it's not an act. Like they work their tails off, and they're doing it for the right reasons, and they're doing it, and that's what's like so passionate about the sport. And I think that's why it's the fastest growing sport in the world.
I mean, that's why I do this because it is fighting is just poetry to me. It is a lot like life. It's not always fair,
Yes.
and the best man doesn't always win, but it's
Oh,
you learn a lot about yourself and good and bad. And I, you were saying before, I think fighting is a life experience that I wish everyone could have, but it's just not going to work out that way. But if they did, they'd have a
so
lot more
true.
respect for people that fought.
Oh my gosh, no doubt about it. Like you said, I truly think that. I wish every human being could have at least one amateur fight.
Hmm.
Like they can wear headgear, they can wear whatever, and people just don't realize like back in the day when you're a kid, if somebody wanted to fight you after school, you sit in class like nervous. Can you imagine knowing for 2, 3, 4, 5 months that you have a fight with somebody who's training for you? You have to make weight, you got to step on a scale. Doesn't matter if you're sick that day. Doesn't matter what happened the week before that. Doesn't matter what life experience you're going through. You got to show up. You got to perform. It's like people, 9 out of 10 people wouldn't even make it to the cage. They wouldn't even show up. And if they understood that, then they'll have so much more. more love for fighters. And I think some people get it. A lot of fans get it. So I don't want to harp on the ones that don't. The ones that get it, it's something beautiful.
That's great. I really appreciate your input, and you're a motivating person. I know you do some motivational speaking as well, right? So,
Yes, I do. Like I'm passionate about it, man. It gives me a rush like the cage. Like I just want to help people get the best out of themselves. Like, and that best is different for everybody. Like I never put a cap or anything on anybody. Like, if I ever listened to what everybody thought about me, I would never be in a position to have a platform to help anybody. Because I would have been like, oh, you're right. I'm fat. I'm overweight. I'm out of shape. No, it's like you got to believe in yourself.
well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I really appreciate hearing a little bit of your perspective on fighting.
Oh my gosh, I thank you so much for having me. You're absolutely awesome. I think this is an amazing idea for a show. I think you're doing
Oh,
something
thank
super special.
you.
I really, really, truly think that like this is gonna be an amazing podcast. There's people need to see the other side of fighters, you know?
Thank you so much, Eddie. I appreciate it.
No, Jenny, you rock, man. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks again, Eddie, for taking the time out of your day to share your story. I really enjoyed it. I hope you all did as well. If you liked what he had to say and you want to learn a little bit more about his life, you can check out his memoir, Forever Truckin'. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back soon with a new and exciting story to share.